to the house. I got my feet on the couch. I don't think that you'll understand, but I'm trying to bring back the South. I've been the man for a year. You've been a bitch all your life. What happened? I got my hand on the crown. Yeah, voted for that nigga twice.
Hey, Jasmine here. Welcome to my English 111 song analysis. Today, we're here to talk about songs that tackle social issues, and no song better describes America's frustrating political issues than JPEGMAFIA and Freaky's I Might Vote for Donald Trump. This chaotic song portrays the hopelessness and I don't give a fuck anymore attitude many Americans felt during the 2016 presidential election, and with the upcoming 2020 election, this song is more relevant than ever, as many Americans are again feeling the hopelessness that comes with choosing the lesser of two evils. Experimental rap artist JPEGMAFIA and Freaky's I Might Vote for Donald Trump perfectly addresses the divisive state of politics and growing civil unrest in America. Freaky's first line says it all.
I might vote for Donald Trump, just to say I did it. I might blindly follow a group of friends full of bigots.
Freaky knew exactly what he was doing when opening the song with I Might Vote for Donald Trump. The 2016 election divided Americans in an unprecedented way. The phrase, I might vote for Donald Trump, was one of the most controversial things you could say. It divided loved ones and ruined long-standing relationships, some Trump supporters even feeling persecuted. I won't go that far, but there is definitely a point in time when saying you were a Trump supporter could cost you your job, or at least get you some negative attention online. This leads me to the next line, I might fall into a group of friends full of bigots. Many Trump supporters feeling isolated from their communities join extremist groups that they feel accept them. A Trump supporter who only agreed with some of Trump's policies is now in a groupthink environment and is more likely to take on the ideas of racist Trump supporters and become radicalized. Freaky points out to the listeners that most people that fall into these groups don't know what they're getting into. Later in the verse, Freaky goes on to say,
In the back of the bell, burning my degree, at Unimart, yelling fuck Bernie.
This actually leads me to cite another JPEGMAFIA song called I Smell Crack, where he says,
You niggas delusional trying to vote for Bernie Sanders.
Modern history.
That nigga ain't gonna get shit done. He fucking crazy.
JPEG and Freaky's lines define why Americans feel so hopeless in the first place. It feels like no matter who you vote for, nothing will change. This is especially distressing when Democratic nominee Joe Biden said on the Today Show, Americans aren't looking for revolution. A person who could possibly become our president doesn't believe Americans want change when there are millions of Americans who die or go into extreme poverty because they can't afford health care. When 2.3 million Americans are incarcerated, but only 74% of them have been convicted of any crime. When politicians who are supposed to represent you actually represent giant corporations that pay them to pass bills that not only fuck over the average American, but the planet we live on. But no, Americans don't want revolution. That's why the delivery and tone of this song is so important. The anarchic and aggressive flow brings out that pent-up frustration and makes listeners want to act. Even if you don't involve yourself in politics, the song just makes you want to get angry. When transitioning verses, JPEG samples one of Trump's most controversial statements to stir up emotions in the listeners. His comment that people immigrating to America are drug dealers and rapists. After the transition, JPEG starts his verse off with the same controversial eye-catching line.
I might vote for Donald Trump, just to say I did it. Damn, Peggy. I might call the IRS, pay them a visit. Damn, Peggy. Beat on my niggas with pistols and privilege them digits. Ideals, meals, Peggy. Then I tell that nigga Chris Christie to pay me a visit.
Here, JPEG affirms that he's very much anti-authority, foreshadowing his attitude in the rest of the song. He talks about how he supports his loved ones through illegal activities and is willing to resort to violence, alluding to visiting the IRS and Chris Christie, the well-known corrupt governor of New Jersey. This is the first point in the song where violence is condoned. He continues his hostile attitude later in the verse, saying,
My niggas been rolling the dice and now I'm shaking these crackers for ice.
In this double entendre, JPEG talks about robbing white people while also meaning he wants to violate immigration police. While this line may seem counterproductive as it isolates a part of his audience, I believe when he says crackers, he actually means Trump supporters, as a majority of them are white. This shows listeners that JPEG doesn't really care about the feelings of Trump supporters like Freaky. He's simply an instigator, and I'm sure many can relate. In the last bar of his song, JPEG says,
the era, she was humping my leg. Cause era should be close to the dead. Trump era, I'll be killing the feds. Real trap shit.
Here, not only does JPEG give us a quick history lesson on Nancy Reagan, but he also ends the song with his most violent line. Violence against the police is one of the most abhorred crimes that can be committed, but can also be the beginning signs of revolution. Of course, I don't condone violence, but there's a clear divide in America when it comes to views on law enforcement. The 2016 Black Lives Matter movement stemmed from the multiple shootings of unarmed Black people in a short amount of time. It seemed like every day we were watching another person be murdered as the police who committed the crimes faced no repercussions. In the heat of this movement, Trump said on the Bill O'Reilly Fox News show, "I think they're trouble," referring to the Black Lives Matter movement, even going on to say they may help instigate police killings. This is a slap in the face to Americans who want to end police brutality. JPEG shows listeners that there are many like him who are willing to prove Trump right. I'm a firm believer that it only takes one person to make a change. Revolution happens when individuals take action. Those small contributions snowball into something bigger. When music tackles social issues, the affected feel empowered, represented, and inspired to take action. This song doesn't hold the solution, but it perfectly represents the anger so many young people feel. This connects us and makes us feel like we're not in this fight alone. No matter how daunting, change is possible. Songs like this will hopefully bring that change into reality.